right, we are on our final day of testing our towers.
It's exciting.
Wrapping up this driving question, and we are ready to jump into lesson 5.
All right.
Pages 47 through 49, and stick around for the end of the video because lesson 6, the last one in this driving question, is optional, and we're going to talk about that at the end of this video. Okay. So now that you have completed all your towers in the previous lesson and saved them, we are ready to test them, and we're going to test them in 2 different ways. Our book test to make sure that it can hold weight, and our fan test. And we'll get more into discussion about the fan in a minute, but why don't you walk us through the book test?
All right. So the first thing that we are going to do is make a prediction. Remember, a prediction is a pretty good guess about what you think is going to happen before you actually test your towers. So if you noticed, we have a few things filled in for you already, and you're welcome to pause this video and copy this down. Tower 1 is going to be our paper tower, Tower 2 is spaghetti, and Tower 3 is craft sticks in the order that we built them. Now, if you notice, I crossed off the word weights. We are going to be using books at home, not weights that you're, working out within your gym. So go ahead and write books. You are going to make a prediction of how many books you think your paper tower can hold before it starts to crumble or fall over. So if you think that paper tower can hold maybe, 2 or 3 books, you're going to write that number down. If you think your spaghetti tower can hold 7 books, write it down. And same thing with craft sticks. These are just guesses. Remember, you're not actually testing it yet. And then at the bottom, this is where it's going to change a little bit. This is where we are going to be recording how many books it actually held. So what will kids need to do in order to get that number?
You're actually going to have to test your tower. So hopefully you followed directions, and maybe you missed all of the directions when Miss Marquardt and I did the video and you made your paper tower, but you don't have it taped or glued to some kind of base where you can step away from it and let it stand on its own. You might need to fix that if it's not something your paper tower can do. If you just have a piece of paper that you stand up like this and then it just falls over immediately, you're like, how am I supposed to put a book on top of that? Well, you might need to figure that out, okay? So hopefully you follow directions and your paper tower will be able to put at least 1 book on top of it and you step away. So get out all 3 of your towers, and one at a time, maybe you grab a pile of, 5 books. And I know not everybody has the same amount of books, and your books at home might weigh less than our books, or they might weigh more than our books. It's okay. We're not really concerned about it. So I might have my paper tower and put 1 book. Oh, my paper tower is still standing. I'm going to add a 2nd book on top of that. I'm going to add a 3rd book. Oh, it fell down on the 3rd book. That means that it was only able to hold 2 books.
Okay.
So then I would record the number 2 for my paper tower. Then I go over to my spaghetti tower, and I keep placing books on top of my spaghetti tower until it either breaks or falls, or it can no longer hold any more books, or I run out of books.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe you only have 5 books at home that you're able to put on top of it. However many your spaghetti tower can hold, write that number down, and then same with your craft stick tower. Add books until it's no longer able to withstand the weight of those books.
Yep.
All right, then you're going to come over here and you're going to answer all of these questions about what you did with the books. My team's strongest tower is, so whichever tower held the most books, that's going to be your answer. Well, what if you had 2 towers that were able to hold a high amount of books and it was the same? That's fine. Maybe you put my spaghetti and paper tower were the strongest and my craft stick tower was the weakest. Whatever your results are, you're going to write that, and it's not going to be the same for everybody because you might have put a lot more effort into your spaghetti tower than your paper tower, while an entirely different student might have done something and you have different results. So there's no right answer here.
Nope, and any of your results are still correct because they are your results from your experiment.
Absolutely. And then we just finished our graphing unit in math.
They should be experts.
You should be able to draw a bar graph. So let's take a look at it. Realize that you guys are going to need to fill in the numbers 1 through 10 over here on the side. And Ms. Marquardt, can you write the word books where it says weights? Because we didn't use weights, we used books to test this. All right, so I'm going to look down here and it says paper tower. Whatever I wrote over here for how many books my paper tower could hold, I am going to fill that in. Let's say that my paper tower held 3 books. Then I would draw a bar all the way up to 3. Now don't copy this. You want your graph to reflect your own results, okay? And let's say your spaghetti tower only held 2 books, and your bar graph would go up to the 2. And let's say your craft stick tower held 5 books. So it's just going to be a reflection to show graph results of which tower held more and less books. And just another way for you to bring in that math and graphing that we learned in our unit last month. Okay, then we have our second test. We tested for strength, and now we're going to test its ability to withstand wind, because any good tower, any good building needs to be able to stay standing through a windstorm.
Oh yeah,
Right?
that's important.
You remember how windy it was in this past week when we had that rainstorm?
Yeah.
If my house wasn't able to withstand wind, I would be standing out in the rain during that whole storm.
You'd have to move in with me.
I know. So
Wouldn't
that
that
would
be
be fun, but then all my stuff would be like wet and blown over and stuff.
That would be good. And we're not even the same size shoe, so
I
you
know.
can borrow my
I know.
clothes. Let's
would be
continue.
Okay, so here's another example of where you guys being scientists, you might have to change this test a little bit to modify it in a way that you can do at home if you don't have all of these materials. So if you don't have a standing fan of any sort at your house, don't feel like you can't perform this test, okay? So you're going to take your 3 towers and you are going to do the fan test on them. Look, so let's start with, let's say you do have a standing fan. I have a tower fan, a fan in my bedroom, because I really like the noise that the fan makes at night. So I always have a fan running. And my fan has 3 levels of, strength or whatever? Speed. Yeah. So if I put it on 1, it blows very softly. If I put it on 2, more wind comes out of the fan. And now if I put it on 3, it's like I'm in like a hurricane or something.
What sound does it make?
And it is really loud and it blows a lot of wind. So when they say fan setting, that's kind of what they're talking about. Was it on level 1, level 2, level 3? Maybe your fan has 5 settings. I don't know. I don't live at your house. I don't have your fan. My fan has 3 settings. Okay?
Okay.
So I would put my 3 towers out one at a time. I'm not going to put them all out at the same time. Okay, I'm going to put 1 tower out, my paper tower. I'm going to turn my fan on facing my tower, level 1. Okay, still standing, level 2.
Okay.
Still standing, level 3. Oh, it blew down. That level 3 was too strong and my tower blew down. So then I would say my fan setting was at 2 for my paper tower. Okay, and you're going to repeat that test with all 3 of your towers. Whatever level your fan gets to and your tower is able to continue to stand, then that will be what you record. Well, if you do not have a fan, there's other things you could do.
Yeah.
For example, maybe you just take a book or something, and if I do this, let's look at what happens to your hair.
Woo. So very windy in
Yes!
here.
So I could do this softly.
I like that a little better.
Not
Yeah,
very
that's
much. Your
nice.
hair's hardly moving at all. I can do
Yeah.
it a little harder.
It feels nice.
I can do it really hard.
Now it's like there's a windstorm.
So that was like 3 settings, and I bet all of you could find like something that's either like a book like this that you could go like that, and there you go, 3 levels. 1,
I feel
2,
like
3.
like a golden retriever with its head out the window in the car.
That's what you look like. Or maybe you just go really simple and you blow on your fan. You blow softly, and then you blow a little harder, and then you go really big, like, or you
Big
get you and
blow.
your sibling, or you and your relative at home, your adult at home, and you have them help you blow to get more wind coming out. So you see,
Lots of ideas.
well, there are lots of ways to perform the fan test if you don't have a fan at home, and just make sure you're doing different speeds and amount of wind that's coming out so that you can see if it's able to withstand. And if your tower is able to withstand level 3 and it doesn't ever fall down, great, then put setting 3 on this, okay?
So can I pause you really quickly?
Please do.
Just as a reminder, these are towers that we are testing after we have already put books on them. So it might have happened that your spaghetti tower fell over during your first test. That's okay. You can still stand it up, or you could put a little piece of tape on it. Just see what is left of the tower. That is what you are testing. We don't expect you to have a perfect tower when you are testing it with the fan at this point.
Definitely.
All right.
Go ahead and explain the reflect to us.
Cool. So reflect is at the very end. We're drawing our conclusions. We're wrapping up and getting our final ideas. We are going to put our towers in order from the strongest to the weakest. So the strongest tower is going to be the tower that held up to the fan's highest setting, or at least better than the others. So maybe it was your spaghetti tower that was the strongest. You're going to write that at number 1. Maybe your paper was the weakest. You'll put that at number 3. And maybe your craft stick was somewhat in the middle. You'll put that there. So you're just keeping them in order from your strongest to your weakest. All right, we're not done because we wanted to talk about lesson 6.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
All right.
Lesson 6 is the last lesson in this, not in the book, just in the driving question before we get to the next section. And this is optional, okay? You have already done all of the hard work, and this is kind of just writing a report to reflect all your work and to get all your thoughts and ideas into 1 or 2 paragraphs to talk about what you learned and what you did during these tower experiments, all right? So this is optional, which means you don't have to do it. If you are over this and you're done and you want to turn off the video right now, this is not mandatory. This will be something where we go and look at lesson 6 tower report when you guys turn in your science books, and we might give you, some extra credit if you completed this part of the book, okay? So you're going to write a report on page 51. That's the next page. There's just some blank lines on there for you to do it. To share the results of your tower building, of the 3 towers you built and tested. Use the checklist here to help. The checklist is here to help you think of things that you can write about in your 1 or 2 paragraphs, okay? Because we don't want you to get to the blank page and be like, what am I supposed to write? Well, here are all the things you can write about. So you might want to create an introduction, which is maybe a sentence or 2, and here's the questions that you can answer in your introduction. What question were you trying to answer? What were we trying to figure out, Ms. Marquardt, with these experiments?
I think we were trying to figure out what materials would make the strongest tower.
Yeah, so maybe that would be your introduction to your paragraph. I created a test to see which material would be the strongest to create a tower out of. Okay, and then what did you do to find the solution to your question? Well, I built 3 towers and I tested them to see which one was the strongest. And then what did you find out? Which tower was the strongest? After performing my test, I discovered that the blank tower was the strongest, and for each of you that answer might be different. Then you're going to get into the details, really talking about what you did in that with those tests. How did you build it? Well, you could talk about that and what materials you used. I used craft sticks and spaghetti, and I used paper and tape and all of these things, and just kind of talk us through what you did. Did you stack them? Did you bundle them? What did you do in order to create those? Describe the properties of the materials. That's a great one. So properties are, was it strong? Was it weak? Was it flexible? Was it stiff? Were your materials shiny or dull, or like whatever materials you use, you can describe those materials and the properties. What happened during the testing? So maybe you discovered that your paper tower was really, really weak and it didn't hold any books, but my craft stick tower was very strong and held a lot of books. So you can talk something like that. Explain how the properties of the materials made a difference to what happened when you tested. So if you're using a property that's material that's really strong, and the property is, is that it's really strong, like your craft sticks, maybe your craft sticks ended up being a stronger tower and it didn't fall when you put books on it. But maybe your paper tower did fall because it was more flexible, but it wasn't as strong. And then finally, your conclusion, what did you learn? Did you learn which materials were strongest and had the best properties if you were going to build a tower? And if so, you can talk about that. You don't have to answer every single one of those questions when you're writing your paragraph. Those are just to give you ideas. So you're not sitting here looking at a blank page thinking, what should I write? I have no idea. I have no idea. I have no idea. I'm so overwhelmed. Just go to that checklist, choose a couple of them. You do not have to write about every single one of those. Choose 2 or 3, write your answers here, and once you feel confident that you have discussed which tower was the strongest and how you created it and what you learned, that's basically what we're looking for.
Yeah, so I think a small paragraph would be plenty for the challenge. And then again, on the next page, we're continuing the challenge. It says to draw and label a diagram to go with your report. Now, I like that word diagram because it didn't just say a picture. A diagram is a little bit more detailed. Not only is it going to be a picture, but it's also going to have labels.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are choosing to draw a picture of your spaghetti tower, you're going to draw the spaghetti, but then you're also going to maybe label things like cardboard base, where the base is. You're going to maybe label the rubber band that you used and where the spaghetti is, so that when your teachers are looking at your beautiful pictures, we know exactly which is, what part is what in your drawing. So it's definitely a little bit more detailed. If you want to color this and really be scientific about it, you're welcome to do that. Good scientists have good diagrams. And then finally at the bottom, these are just some this is for...
Yeah, it goes along with this. Just some
It's-
true or false questions for you guys.
what we're going into.
Mm-hmm. Yes. This will be our next unit that we're going to be talking about. So this is optional. You can do this if you want, but we're going to be more focused on the report and the diagram. So that's pretty much it.
Have fun.